Bahamas, where there were fields of these crinoids, we never saw any little ones. So any juveniles you see that have these whorls of cirri along the stalk, that would be an interesting observation to see if there are any juveniles. But also, if the smaller white ones turn out to look like a different species, we still don't know where one species of these ends and another one leaves off. And unfortunately, all of the material I collected years ago is too ancient already for sequencing. So I don't know if it's in your schedule or anything, but one of these big guys and one of the smaller white ones might help solve whether they are indeed different species, subspecies, or varieties.
Wait, I'm not moving.
Thanks for that context. We do have enough space to sample one more specimen. Unfortunately, we don't have the room for both right now, but if that's something that folks are interested in sampling, we can definitely throw it to the community, and we can take a look for one of these smaller ones. So the smaller ones would be the smaller, whiter, paler ones would be the target.
Yeah, they should be quite similar. Actually, one way to tell at this depth, the only one we got in the Bahamas of an endoxocrinus with all of these numerous well-developed hooks along the stalk is endoxocrinus pare. If the other one also looks like an endoxocrinus, it might be the same species. It's difficult to distinguish some of them just from video unless you bother it and it closes up its arms.
Do you want to look at him?
So you can see the outside of the closed crown. That can give you a hint on what species or variety it might be.
Hey, Chuck, do you recognize this sideroid?
That's like asking a cardiologist to do brain surgery. I don't know if it's. I don't think it's Calicidarus. It doesn't quite look like that.
Yeah.
There's what, Histiosiderus?
Yeah, Histiosiderus is yellow though.
Oh, okay.
No, that's fine. I just thought maybe you were familiar. I know you're familiar with this area, so.
Every once in a while, I'll be able to come up with a name, but I'd be reluctant to call that. I don't think it's Calicidarus, but I don't know enough. And beyond that, in Histiosiderus, I don't know what else is likely to be here.
Yeah, one thing I noticed while you're all on the phone here is that some of the upper spine tips are flattened, kind of into a paddle-shaped, and they're not as pointy as some of the other spines on the column.
Yeah, I saw that.
Are we still going to keep?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give it a look through the urchin book and see if something comes up.
Let's go to video.
I'll admit that there's a nice monograph by Tom Phelan on the sideroid urchins of this area, so it's very helpful in tracking down these the species here. But sometimes it's not in a book, and that's an important lesson to broadcast. So.
I don't know what maybe that's what we're talking about.
Awesome. Thanks both for tuning in. This is helpful. Pilot, can we look at that smaller, whiter one, same kind of crinoid in the background, just before we move too far away?
Yep. Was there interest in it?
Thanks. I'll let you guys go. I'll tune in again when the starfish are right.
Thanks. Thanks, Chris.
Bye.
And before I sign off here, and I want to look at that white one, of course, one thing that might be interesting to the viewers is that these crinoids bend their arms back into the current. So they're like weather vanes. You can always tell which way the near bottom current is flowing because the arms of these point backwards. They, like other echinoderms, they have this unique ligamentary tissue that allows them to lock those arms in place against the current without expending any energy.
Yeah, so let us know what you think about this one. You know, we do have one box space left.
And this is an interesting bottom, too, because, let's see what that guy is. So that looks also like an Indoxocrinus, and it may just be a juvenile of the other one. You see the cirri are quite long. The tips of one whorl of cirri overlaps the next one down the stalk. So I'm guessing that that's the same species, just a much smaller specimen. Another interesting thing for the larger ones is you see how long their stalks were, the purple ones, and much of the stalk is laid down along the substrate, which suggests that the current is now, or just recently was, relatively strong, because normally what they can do under a weaker current, say 5 or 10 centimeters a second, is they will stand up much higher above the sediment, above the substrate, and only cling above the sediment, above the substrate, and only cling with the last smaller section of the stalk. So they also can reflect how strong the near bottom flow is. And then once you get above 25 or 30 centimeters a second bottom flow, then they'll collapse
it's outside
the crown
if you look at
and not be able to feed.
Huh. So Chuck, do you think this is the one that you mentioned would be a good candidate juvenile for collection?
Actually, I think if you can get one of the larger ones,
but otherwise,
I think
if
this
you do it
small
normally,
one is just a juvenile.
Get low enough.
Unless you can, I think it looks like certainly an Indoxocrinus, but we don't have any fresh material of any of them. So I would guess a more fully developed one would be most appropriate if it's possible.
Okay, so the one in the back right here, do you think that is...
Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
And for your records, if you can, I don't know if you can zoom in real quickly on the feather star at upper left, just so we can get an ID on it for your records.
Yep.
The little yellow guy.
Yeah, we will take a look at that.
And I do apologize for not being able to sign on more often than I have during this cruise. I'm going to try to review the videos after the cruise and see what 2 cents I can contribute.
Much appreciated. We're going to try and pick up one of these Indoxocrinus adults, because we have been seeing them. They're quite numerous in the area, and
pretty close.
the identification isn't too well known. So we're going to try and sample this colony, and we'll let you know how it goes.
Slide it up the blade.
Okay.
Or if
and
not,
just for your future information, because I'll be on and off watching today, if you see any others at this depth range that are obviously more slender, with the hooks along the stalk not reaching the next set of hooks, much weaker hooks, that's probably Neocrinus, and that can get 3/4 of a meter tall.
Oh wow!
So that's a relatively easy.
Okay, go ahead and hit joy lock.
Distinction between these two.
Thanks.
And the fact that there are so many hooks along the stalk, and the interval between the sets of hooks is so short.
Yeah, so what I was saying is, I was going to come in here, the fingers kind of get
perhaps this environment is subject to fairly strong currents.
The right fingers under it.
Yeah.
Then you
we have been noticing some fairly strong currents in the area. It's fairly variable. We started down at the bottom of the slope. There's a very strong eastward current, and now, or southeastward rather, and now it's kind of clocked around a little bit to due east or slightly north of east. So it's definitely a very variable current environment, and very interesting that we're seeing such a diversity of crinoids here.
The other thing that's interesting about these is this lavender color is different than the color we'd see in the Bahamas, too.
Okay.
So another reason to collect it. And these guys can just go into ethanol don't have to worry about anything. And you see them beginning to move the arms. One of the things we observed in the Bahamas when we were using the Sea-Link, which had a very powerful light on it, is after a bit they would clearly not like the light. And they'd start, waving their arms or turning away. And the stalk on this should be pretty robust, so anywhere you grab it, it should come up intact below the crown there.
Oh, it sounds like maybe he wants the whole stalk.
Oh, okay. Well, I still have to slide down, I think, for it.
Yeah. So you're in a pretty low grip force?
I'm not. I went up to 6 because I thought
when these guys were first discovered back in the
okay.
The first one, which was a bit shallower, that Linnaeus actually described different species and genus from the Caribbean. A, they thought it was a shallow water species, and B, his first classification of it was with bamboo calls.
Yeah, grip force is coming down.
And then they finally, in the early 19th century, figured out, that these are crinoids, they're echinoderms, but it took them a while to realize that they were actually deeper water, because the first couple of collections came up on things like fishing line.
Yeah. Very slowly.
We do get them in the Caribbean. There's another species that gets as shallow as shallowest I've seen it is 146 meters deep, and it's a much taller species with longer hooks, longer cirri. And in Japan, there it goes. You see, he doesn't like that.
As fast as I can get.
You got it faster.
Try and be as gentle as possible.
Very nice.
The difference. But that definitely looks like what we've been calling pare.
You'll be able to stuff
but
it down
again, I've not seen this color before, and
mini when you're ready.
It'll be interesting to compare them, to get the DNA sequencing, and to compare them morphologically to species specimens from elsewhere.
Let me know when you're ready.
Excellent. So I think that definitely fits the criteria for our sampling protocol. So this is definitely a really good, useful collection for both understanding crinoids better as well as understanding the richness of biodiversity in this particular site.
Yeah, they're really interesting in terms of understanding bottom flow over time, because I got a photograph of a bunch of them oriented to the current just like this, but all of the late scarls, stilastarids, which would grow, in a fan shape at 90 degrees to the average flow over time, were at 90-degree angles to the crinoids. So the crinoid is telling you what the current is at the moment, and the late scarls, the stilastarids, are telling you what it is over a longer period of time, mean flow.
That grip force is very slow.
And how many described species are there of stalked crinoids?
Very good.
There are actually, of the 650 or so species of crinoids that we know, living crinoids, just over 100 of them are stalked.
Oh, okay.
The rest of them are the feather stars, which are, people call them unstalked crinoids, but they actually do start out life as a stalk, as tiny little stalk guys, and then they shed the stalk and grow up with just the hooks, the cirri. And the stalk crinoids, as I said, are only found in relatively deep water from 100, 150 meters down. They've been found, other species have been found over 9,000 meters down. And the feather stars, there are species that occur in the lower intertidal, just subtidal, all the way down to 5,000 or 6,000 meters.
And how many species are there in the Caribbean?
Right now, there's about 55 shallow and deep, both stalked and unstalked. although I've got from the cruise that I was on, EX1711 last December in the Gulf of Mexico, we collected at least 2 new species of crinoids, one a feather star, one a stalk crinoid, and the stalk crinoid is the first representative of its family that has ever been recorded from the Western Atlantic. And so we keep finding, just keep finding new ones.
Yeah.
I have a half a dozen new species from various expeditions on my desk, waiting for the semester to end. Time to look and describe them. And I guess while we're doing this, one other quick story about crinoids. There's a little, and you've seen these before on last week. We were on those deep, rugged bottoms with those little pale, yellowish palm tree crinoids with only 5 arms.
I didn't actually say anything.
Okay. There's a species that was first discovered in the mid-1800s off Norway, and was one of the first deep water organisms discovered.
Go ahead.
And it was the one of the species that led Charles Wyville Thompson and W.B. Carpenter to petition the British Admiralty for ships to investigate life in the deep sea, because that was one of the things that persuaded people that life could actually live in the deep sea, and that led to the Challenger expedition.
Ah, okay.
Yep. So we're going to get a zoom on this yellow crinoid before we head off here.
Okay. Great. I think it's down below your field of view now.
Yeah, we saw a lot of this yellow variety at the yesterday's site. They're in really high abundance.
Yeah, this is almost this is another example of what keeps me in business. This will almost certainly be, and I'll keep my mouth shut until we see.
Do you want me to take your tilt, or you got it?
I got it. Okay, coming back to it. See what you mean about this current now?
So this is a feather star, and I think I know what it's going to be, but I will
if you're facing north, you're going to
withhold judgment until we're closer in.
Copy that. So I should come out video? Let me get a better angle on this.
You guys are great.
We're happy to have some context about these.
I can't hear what you're saying now.
That's the angle you want.
Something that we currently call Crinometra brevitina, and this is another conundrum because this is known. There are about 23, I think, varieties that were originally described as different species that have all been lumped under brevitina, and so this and they vary mostly in terms of their sculpture. So with a lot of these guys, especially these crinoids, feather stars or stalks, you really have to look at the outside of the arm. So basically you have to upset them a bit so they close up and you can see the outer sides of the bases of the arms. These guys have amazing diversity of ornamentation, knobs or spines or bumps or all different kinds of sculpturing. And
the tips of them?
A lot of them were originally named when they have 2 of these. This is different from the third one, and so we'll call them different species kind of thing 100 years ago. So they were all described as different species, and then they collected more and said, this one sort of looks like this. We'll all lump them together.
All right,
but since I've been working on these, I'm pretty sure that there are at least 2 species, because we get these yellow ones with a lot of different sculpturing on them, ornamentation, and then usually in a bit shallower water, we'll get purplish ones that are mostly smooth or almost smooth. And I think, eventually we'll try to figure it out if we get some more specimens. But I think there's probably at least 2 species. Maybe, there may be more. But it's still, we're still doing what they call alpha taxonomy, trying to figure out where one species begins and another leaves off.
Excellent.
Yep.
Thanks. We'll try and get a better look if we see one with the arms closed on the other side over the course of the rest of the dive today, so that we can get a better picture of that. But we're going to have to move on. But another good collection.
Sure. Well, thanks for giving me the opportunity to participate. I will have to sign off myself.
Yeah, that's better.
And I'll try to log back on later.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks for joining.
You're welcome. Sure. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, let's line back up on 909 then.
Well, we'll kind of work over together.
Copy that.
Actually, pilot, I think I saw something to the left. I don't know if you can go back. It was something stalked, but didn't look like a crinoid.
Okay, let me know if you see it.
Okay. Yeah, I think we passed. Yeah, maybe it's a crinoid. It just has, it looks a little bit different.
Is it up at 11 o'clock right now?
Yeah.
Any interest in getting closer and doing a quick zoom?
Yeah, can we do a quick zoom?
Sure. Video if you want to come in on that real quick, just to make sure. I believe it's the one up higher, that one there.
Yeah.
Looks like a crinoid.
Yeah, it looks like a crinoid, but it's just a little bit different of what we've been seeing. Okay, that's good.
Hey, watch lead, this is Nav.
Go ahead, Nev.
Hey, I just wanted to check in with you. We just kind of swapped out here, but we're looking at waypoint 4. Is our goal to hit waypoint 4 no matter what, or is it more just to kind of mosey along and see what we see along the way to it?
So our plan was to head towards waypoint 4. We thought it would be a bit of a sharper kind of cusp here of the slope. So I think we'll just track along towards waypoint 4. We'll try to keep our camera up a little bit so we can see the fish.
Copy that.
And see what we see.
Now that the current's
just kind of make it as far as we make
starboard,
Yeah.
you'll have to start lateraling to port quite a bit.
Copy that.
Or turn more 45 to my screen, so you're pushing slightly forward into the current. But yeah, definitely you should be lateraling hard to port now, otherwise you're going to go off my screen.
Copy that. Coming over.
Here's a fan. Right in the center.
Oh, yeah, yellow octocoral.
Oh, this looks like maybe a cup coral.
Or a little urchin. Yeah. I think we've gotten some pretty good imagery of that yellow fan a little bit earlier, so I think we can mosey. Yeah. Off to the left-hand side, pilot. 3 o'clock now, just off the edge of the screen. Or sorry, 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock. Yeah, I have to.
Getting my clock sides messed up. There's a bear-looking stalk. Can we snap zoom on that?
Sure. Go ahead and come in, video.
It looks a little bit different than the others. Yeah. There we go.
Okay.
It's a shame Scott had to leave for lecture, but
continue
we're looking at
closer to it.
Looks like a bamboo coral here. Very weird kind of morphology in that it branches. Maybe not so weird. It kind of has a forked branching morphology. This one's totally bare of polyps. Maybe could be what those red sea stars were eating previously, but this one looks totally picked clean.
Has really distinctive nodes.
Yeah.
I haven't seen one with nodes this dark before.
Yeah, we've been looking a lot at, in the deeper waters at least, this S-clade, cladoriasis or some J-clade, bamboo corals that have lighter color or golden node tones. This one is much, much darker. But yeah, this is formerly a bamboo coral, now a bamboo coral skeleton. And it looks to be an internodal brancher, but just above the node in many cases. So I don't think that's an obvious internodal brancher, but generally pretty much on every branch point above the node. So that might help us classify. Maybe we'll see one.
Can we snap zoom the big sponge behind this bamboo coral?
Sure. Go ahead and come in video.
Looks like a foot.
Looks bigger than a foot.
It's a weird morphology.
Would you like to get closer to it?
I don't think so. I think that's okay. Thank you.
That.
I'll get lasers real quick.
Careful, if we get too close, we might want to collect it.
Yeah.
We're out of box space.
There you go.
Okay.
Whatever, yeah, that's great, thanks.
I'll set with lasers.
We've had such a prolific series of collections today that really enhance our understanding of species in the area, as well as the
maximum forces into it.
Amount of
anytime you feel,
deep water sponge biodiversity with 2 sponge collections today, along with a very large tunicate that was unknown to our scientists on shore, as well as ourselves on the ship. And we've also collected a crinoid, one of these purple, they almost look like sunflowers, shaped organisms. So known as a crinoid, stalked variety of crinoid called Endoxocrinus.
It's getting out there. Should we do
Oh yeah, definitely.
These are not known from this area yet,
20 meters,
but they're suspected to possibly be new species or
linger here for a moment.
or new varieties.
You can push forward, maybe look a little that way, and then let the current blow you back. We don't want to get any further from you.
Copy that.
Hey, we're ready for a ship move. 20 meters at 090, 0.2 knot.
Could we snap zoom on the right in the center? There are a bunch of. It's like branching.
Over here to
the right of the lasers.
Copy that.
Yeah.
Go ahead and do a snap zoom.
Oh, there we go. So I think this is one of the corals that we just saw. That was bare of polyps. Now this one is well populated with polyps. Fully living colony.
Would we like to get closer? I can set up better and put a toe down.
Yeah, maybe we might want to look at the polyps here since we saw the skeleton earlier.
Let me get closer.
Well, this dive keeps on revealing more surprises. We weren't quite sure what kind of bottom we would find here, as the mounds in the area look pretty rounded, pretty well rounded, but one option is that could have been sediment, another is that they could have just been current scoured, and it seems to be the latter option here. We're looking at features that are very heavily current scoured.
Okay. Go ahead and take
leading to an
off.
abundance of hard bottom.
Lasers coming off.
And video, feel free to come in when you're ready. And we're going for polyps, correct? Is there a...
Polyps, any polyps. Anything that looks like it might have good contrast.
Okay. Probably going to come up then, video. Do you agree? All right, coming up.
Interesting. This one has some of the tips of the branches are bare of polyps. It's very translucent. might be difficult to see some of the.
I didn't hear what you said, video.
Yeah, it's really hard.
Some of the polyps right there are extremely dense.
Copy that. Do you want me to turn over to them a little bit better? I can try and bring the camera down and get this one that's facing us. That helps. Not really.
If it's easier, maybe something lower on the colony might not be so bouncy.
Cover that. Coming down with the camera. Okay. Do you prefer the lower branching point? Or
whichever area of the polyps is pretty easy to focus on, I think.
Okay, I think adequate. Right there to our right would probably be, or I guess right here. I'm drifting again.
Should we try the high beams?
Go ahead and bring them on.
Thank you, Bridge.
Did that do anything to help video?
All right. Yep. All right. Well, that's good enough. Thanks for getting that at least. The polyps are pretty low contrast. They don't have a lot of pigment or anything in them, so we'll take those images and we'll try and get a better idea on that. Thanks, pilot.
Copy that. Pilot's clear when video is. I'll hold this until you tell me you're good. Alright, copy that.
Alright, so I've moved my 20. I should be pretty much stopped.
All
yep,
right.
Looking down at you.
Pushing to starboard. And video, excuse me, Science, you said that you wanted to be looking for fish as well, correct?
Yes.
Alright, copy that.
So what Carl was talking about earlier, don't look off too far, because you won't have tether to go see anything.
Well, off to my...
There, where you're looking now. You can look in front of where you're going.
Yeah, off to my starboard here is where I'm going though, right?
Yeah, you can look to your starboard if you'd like.
Copy that.
So far we've seen, oh, there's a fish.
Yep.
At 1 o'clock.
Feel free to come in video. Lasers on if they're not already.
I believe they are. Oh, lasers are on now.
Looks like a dory.
Yeah, it looks a little bit flatter than a boarfish.
A boarfish, I mean, boarfish, yeah.
Maybe we're just seeing it at a weird angle.
Feel free to take lasers off.
Yeah, some of these boarfish we were looking at yesterday and today, they have different...
We've already gotten decent video.
I don't know if it's something that they can change, or the bands are slightly darker or lighter in some individuals than others.
Right, clear when you are.
Yeah, like the individuals yesterday had a dark band. And then the day before, I don't think they had a band.
It was a bit paler, yeah. Maybe it's a depth influence factor.
Yeah, I guess if you have to face this way, you are looking...
Maybe different species of boarfish.
Ahead, but as long as you don't go off the screen when you see something ahead, it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure lots of fishes have the ability to change certain parts of their tonation, like
the starboard side of your frame,
like the
just so
what
I'm looking ahead at is something I can drive to if we do.
Yeah, it sounds like
not the soldier fish, the other the red fish that turn pale,
and then red,
come back a little bit,
and then red color again. So
either a Priacanthus or a bulleye.
Yep.
One of those.
So some fish have the ability to change tone pretty rapidly.
Something like that, a little better.
Yeah.
Or maybe the one's a female and the other one's a male.
Copy that.
I think it's a younger.
Could be, yeah.
Yeah.
It could be.
Another move.
Yeah, another 20 meters, 090.
Have what's called sexual dimorphism.
Coming up.
With
different,
slightly different morphologies for male and females.
For another move. 20 meters at 090, 0.29.
Alright, you're starting to get out there.
Yep.
Good copy.
Feel free to call out anything that you may see. Video, science, other pilots.
So yeah, stop your way here. Maybe just come back towards me or push ahead or fall back. But don't get any further ahead of my screen.
Copy that.
The thrusters are at 30% between you pulling and the current pulling on the tether.
So good afternoon for all those who are tuning in. This is the Okeanos Explorer. Today we are exploring this small seamount northwest of Desecheo Island. We started today's dive around 525 meters, and we are now at 432 meters. We slowly climbed this small mound, and now we are surveying the top of this mound. I believe towards the east. We've been able to see a pretty high diversity of corals, of soft corals, a couple black corals, and some different sponges. Also 4 species of fish, including queen snapper. We've made 4 collections so far, 2 sponges, a really large tunicate, and our last collection was a stalk crinoid. So the focus of this dive was to survey this area because this is a potential habitat for these commercially important deep water fish species like snappers and groupers. Here's a larger black coral. Is that the same one?
Yeah, I think so. I was just, we were just talking amongst the science chat folks about what the stalks could be that the zoanthids are growing on, and the only thing that I can think of in this area is some sort of coral stalk, maybe very similar to what these
feel free to do a snap zoom video.
Black coral colonies look like.
Yeah, makes sense because there's not much others that are stalking.
Oh, here we go. This one's one of the enigmatic ones that decides to branch somewhere along the colony, making it difficult to potentially identify. I think given though what we know between the 2 genera, that we had thought these could be either parentopathes or stylopathes, I think we're going to lean towards parentopathes in this case, in that we know that parentopathes does occasionally branch sometimes, but this is the first branching kind of black coral thin stalk we've seen on this dive so far. All the others have not branched in this manner, so I think we're going to call this one parentopathes.
Science, you all set?
Yep, thank you.
Okay, video, when you're all set, feel free to come out. I will continue moving.
Yep, sweet. Get yourself back in the center.
Yep, I'm heading back now.
And a good habit when you're flying sideways, You know, every now and then turn, take a look, read the sonar. Go ahead, turn back, whatever you'd like to do.
Yep. See it now?
Yeah, it's like one of the
Copy that now.
scorpion type fish.
Feel free to come in video.
Thank you, Bridge.
Coming down on the... Oh, 1 second. Yep.
So it looks like it's from the family Scorpionidae.
Co-pilot, do you want me to get him moving after this?
Really, we've seen this fish on a couple of dives. And pilot, when we zoom out, can we have place the lasers close?
Of course.
Thanks.
Co-pilot, if you want to toss those on. Thank you. I'll try and paint them. Upside back. Oh, at least a couple frames. All right, Science, you all set?
Yes, thank you.
Video. Free to come out. Gonna go ahead and free to do a snap zoom. Any
It's
fish?
a fish bottle fish.
Copy that. Come out. Coming back and over to look ahead. I kind of want to try flying like to the east.
Yeah, go for it.
See
you,
how
you always have your, you know, if you get in a sticky situation, turn.
Yep.
You're good to go. Okay, same move. How about that? Bridge, RV nav. Another move, please. 20 meters at 090, 0.2 knots.
Can we do a
Good
snap
copy.
zoom on the branching structure?
up ahead?
Yeah, like at 11.
Sure.
I think it might be the same bamboo.
Go ahead and do a snap video as I come around. So something like that, kind of where I spun towards the north. Copy. Any interest?
Well, we have some close-ups. It's just in the middle. It's interesting that it's branching off of this, like this bundle on top. But yeah.
You want to come in on it? I can get a better.
Yeah, can we just zoom in real quick?
Video zoom out. Let me get a little bit closer. Thank you. Okay. Let me get settled. Okay. Video if you want to come in. Try and get that center. Lasers are probably alright.
It looks like maybe an anemone or something has one of the branches. It looked like a bundle. Yeah, it's weird. Like a node or something. Not a node, but
Sorry.
Yeah, like a gall or something. It's not unusual. Sometimes we find galls on coral colonies. They might be either some sort of egg sac or maybe an anemone, likely not living, maybe something that the coral colony was trying to isolate. These big kind of overgrown calcified structures.
Sorry about that.
This one is very much alive though. Yeah, it looks like right on that branch point there's an attached anemone.
Yeah.
Yeah. They tend to cause a lot of tissue loss in the vicinity.
Okay, thank you, pilot.
Okay. Copy that.
Ah, there's a bunch of these bamboos.
Looks like an urchin on that.
Yeah, that's interesting how they seem to prefer this flat-topped area. I mean, it's more or less flat. There's a slight slope.
I'm surprised we didn't see any bamboos yesterday. Is that too shallow for bamboos?
I think it was a little shallow, yeah. There are a couple of groups of corals that are in the family that bamboos are, but they grow at shallower depths, but not any that I know of in the Caribbean. They're mostly in the Pacific.
Okay.
Copy that. Okay.
But yeah, if I had to name one kind of characteristic,
we're not going to be able to put in the move for a little bit while
deep,
they change the heading.
Deep water coral family, it's probably the bamboos. They're visible all the way down to several thousand meters, 3,000 meters, sometimes even 4,000 meters. You can still see bamboo corals.
There's a green eye right below me.
Hoy estamos, I think there's a fish at 11 o'clock. Possibly, right behind the crinoid.
1 o'clock?
1 o'clock, sorry, 1 o'clock. I got my clocks screwed up also. There are like 2 clocks right to the left of us.
It's amazing we've lasted 16 dives in without totally backwards.
Go ahead and come in, video.
Oh, I think it's a stylaster. Sorry. It's not a fish. Yeah, it was more to the right. I thought it was maybe a fish laying on the seafloor. Pilot, this is Watch Lead.
Go ahead.
We have a request if maybe you could pan around every once in a while to see if there are any fish around.
Sure.
Thanks.
That would be a good time to do that.
Yeah, a lot of things moving.
Hoy estamos buceando en un monte pequeño en el área de Pichincho. Está noroeste de la isla de Desecheo en Puerto Rico.
Go ahead and come in, video. Just snap zoom.
Empezamos en el base de monte en la profundidad de 525 metros y subimos encima del monte y ahora estamos en 434 metros de profundidad. El objetivo de hoy es para caracterizar los hábitats de los peces que viven en aguas profundas como chillos y megros, cartucho y chillo de ojos amarillos. Vimos un cartucho y 3 especies de pez. Y colectamos 2 esponjas y un tunicado y crinoide. Pasiles son nuevas especies.
Don't see any fish.
Go ahead, Bridge. Okay.
Yeah,
Are you ready for a move? All right, let's do the same one. 20 meters at 090, 0.2 knots.
Yeah, coming back.
Good copy.
It looked like the current has picked up. Is that true, pilot?
Yes, I believe so. It's definitely picked up since I've taken over control. It's been fluctuating.
Yeah, you could see the bamboo corals.
What direction does it look like?
It's coming north to south.
North to south, yeah. It's all over the map today. It started kind of southeast or southeast.
Yeah,
and
southeast too.
By the time we got to the slope, it's clocked around all the way to the north.
Yes, 20 meters.
So, Nav, this is Watch Lead.
Go ahead, Watch Lead.
There's nothing particular that we're interested in reaching at waypoint 4, but just out of curiosity, how are we doing for pacing towards waypoint 4?
Do you have a high pack open right now?
I do.
Okay, we're about 300 meters from waypoint 4, and we have roughly 2 hours and change left on bottom, which would mean we need to average about 0.08 to get over there. So I mean, it's not terribly far. We're doing okay on our pacing, and at times we pick up pace and get a lot further. So we'll probably make a good distance towards there if we don't make it all the way.
Sounds great. Thanks. Pilot, 6 o'clock, now 7 o'clock. There's a yellow stalk.
Copy that.
Can we snap zoom on that?
Sure. Go ahead and come in video.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, drive a little bit closer to it, I think. Oh.
So this coral is pretty well known to us. This was sampled a few days ago, actually, at the Mona escarpment area. Thanks. I'm all set with that. I just wanted to confirm. This is an acanthogorgiid octocoral that we identified on the ship. It is Acanthogorgia aspera, which is octocoral we've seen now at 3 sites at this depth range. So it was thought to be a plexaurid, but it's most definitely an acanthogorgiid. And I've seen it a couple more times today. It's good to know that it's pretty widespread through here. It's definitely the depth range for it.
Do you want to get another one in right behind this one when we're done?
Yes, please.
Copy. Thank you, Bridge. We'd like to put in another one, actually. 20 meters at 090.
Much more of these stalks with zoanthids on them. That one looks a bit more like a...
Good copy.
I wonder if it's a bamboo coral.
That's the other option. It could just be a bamboo coral that's very old and it's fallen apart, but those bamboos are pretty rigid, at least towards the base. So it seems to be pretty floppy.
Because I've seen more now, like just these bases of the bamboo corals without any of the branches.
Absolutely possible.
Yeah, closer to 3:30. It really just started.
There's something that's, oh, that might be the zoanthids.
Yep.
Yeah, might be. Can we zoom in on the shell?
Sure, right in front of me?
Yeah.
Copy that. Feel free to come in, video.
This might be a slit shell. Looks like one.
Looks to be alive as well.
Coming for it. Underestimating the current. Or overestimating it.
Yeah, it looks like it's died a bit.
Yeah.
Quite a bit.
When they come back. Go ahead and come in, video.
In the last 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, it's been fluctuating like crazy. Is there any focus? There you go.
Yeah, you could see the foot. And it's moving very slowly.
We've seen a couple of these today. They have the same exact kind of coloration patterns, stripes and ridges on the shell, but can't quite see the slit opening on the other side, but I think it's a safe bet to call it a slit shell snail.
Pilot's
Yep.
All
clear
set?
when
Yep.
video's clear.
Good.
Copy that. Pushing out. Keeping an eye out for fish. Well, actually, there's been quite a few the green eye fish, the smaller ones. Are those of interest, or have we seen?
Oh, we've seen a bunch. Yeah.
Copy that. nice one there.
Nav, co-pilot?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm on next for pilot. I was going to take a short